Hello, greetings to everyone. Welcome back. We are going to continue from where we ended, and today our lesson will be focused on procedures and functions. So right away, we'll start with functions. So I'm going to take an example. A simple example we are going to use here will be example one for functions. We'll write a function that takes in two numbers as parameters, calculates the sum of these two numbers and then calculates the sum and prints the result. So we'll name the function sum. As simple as that. So how do we go about this? Okay. So the first thing we'll do is we'll start by declaring our variables. We need to take in two integers, which we'll call them x and y. Okay, x and y. Sorry. So we'll call them x and y. Then the next thing we'll do is we are going to ask the user to give us the two numbers. We'll enter them. Excuse me. Change my keyboard. So we'll say enter the first number, for instance, just like we used to do in the previous videos. Enter the first number, then we'll input the number and store in x. So we store the first number in x. We'll do the same thing for the second number, so I don't have time. I will just copy this and paste here and then modify. So we have enter the second number. And we'll input the number in y. We'll store it in y. The second number. So now that we've gotten our two numbers, we need to send it as a parameter in a function, of course, which we will then calculate. So to write the function, we use this button called the function manager. So we click on this button, as you can see. We'll click add, that's we want to add the function, and then we'll give the name of the function. So in this case, our function, the name of our function, as we earlier said, will be sum. And sum is going to take in two numbers. Take in its parameters are going to be, let's say, num1, which is an integer, and number 2, second integer. Okay, so we have this and all of them. Now the return type, as you can clearly see here, if you look at it very well here, we have the return type. So we'll choose the sum. The sum will return, it will return an integer since we are dealing with the integer. Then what is the variable we are going to use as sum? Maybe we'll call it result, as simple as that, which will take in the first number and the second number, add the first number and the second number, and that will be the return value. So we say okay, then we click on done. As you can see here, done. Once we've done that, this is our function here. Okay. So we can clearly see here, this is our function. Maybe I should remove that question, the text there. Okay, so I'll zoom. So now, so you can clearly see here, this is a function sum that takes in an integer num1 and another integer num2 as parameters. Then we've already declared integer result. So result will simply be assigned, simply say result should be num1, which is a parameter, the first number, num2. So we'll add them up and then we'll return, the function will return the integer result. Okay, so we will return the sum of these two numbers. Once we've done that, we'll go back here in our function, then we'll move to the main, because it's in the main that we are supposed to call the function. So what are we going to do now? What we'll do is we are going to use an output, since we have to print the sum of the two numbers which we have calculated. But we have to do that calling on the function. So what do we then do? Another way you could do this is by creating a variable in the main that will receive the value, the return value in the function. That's another way you can do this. But let me first of all do it in this manner, where I will just call the function directly in the output. So I will say, okay, the sum is, I'll close the quote, then I'll call on the function, which is, oh, I forgot, I'm supposed to put the and sign, okay? Nope, it's visible. So, and then I'll call on the function. What's the name of the function? Sum. You will take x and y as the two numbers as parameters. Okay. Once we've done that, we'll click on OK. And then let's run our program to see how the output will look like. So let's test. Voila. So they're asking for the first number. So I'll enter, say 2. Okay. Enter the second number, 3. So the result is supposed to be, the sum is 5. Voila. So it works. So you see that we've used a function, sum. If you can see here, this is a function I created, sum, that takes in two numbers, x and y, as parameters, then prints the sum. Calculates it, that's it adds the two numbers and then returns the result as an integer, which we've now called over here. As you can see here, this output, the sum is, we just call the function. So this is the first way you could use this function. So another way we could do it, we can also do it in this manner. We'll declare a variable, say maybe some in lowercase, just any variable that will take in the return value of our function. So here, after the input here, after the input here, I will now call on that function, which I'll first of all assign the function sum. This function call. Yes, I will assign that function the function we created, which is, maybe I have to give another name to it. Maybe I have to give another name. This variable sum, can call it, well, let's just maintain sum. So, and then down here, I'm going to call on the variable, just the variable sum, which we just created. So you can see here. So what will happen is that this variable, this function sum that takes in x and y, will receive the return value, and then we'll assign that return value to sum. And then at the end here, the sum is sum. Okay. Now, this other sum is different from the function sum. The function sum starts with an uppercase. That's why you see it here. Okay. But this other, the variable sum, starts with a lowercase s. That I had to do that to differentiate the two. Okay. So let's see if it works. 1, the second 2. So the result will be the sum is 3. You can clearly see that it works. So thank you very much. That will be it for our class on functions. See you in our next class. And remember, please remember to subscribe. Remember to subscribe.